You were a 10-year veteran here at WREX. Just
I
take me
was.
through some of your memories of your time there, and just what it meant to you to work at WREX.
I would tell a story and you would run into somebody at the grocery store, or you would tell a story and, see somebody's kid in school at the basketball game that next week. So you knew just how important those stories were. It wasn't like you told a story and you never saw anybody again. These are the people that you lived with and lived around you and worked around you. And it really made me realize how important news was, because it wasn't just a um, abstract concept of you wrote it and you threw it out into the world and it didn't affect anyone. You could see the people that it affected and why it was important to them.
And you grew into one of those veteran voices in the newsroom during your time. How did you embrace that role when you saw the younger reporters and producers coming in?
I think for me, it was really important what was given to me to kind of share with the next person. So much that as I learned, the people who shared and worked with me, gave me so much kindness. And I tried to do the same thing back to the next person that I saw in the newsroom, that you didn't know where somebody's journey was. Some people came and they didn't stay very long, or this wasn't for them. This wasn't the job for them. But I really tried to I really just tried to share what was given to me, which is, try to be kind to that, try to be as kind as you can to the people that you worked with, help them on their journey, and kind of talk about, a lot of times what I talked about with people is, and the reporters, was life. Like, do you care about this? Are you passionate about this? Because it takes a lot to do this. It takes a mental toll. It takes so much of a toll on you to kind of embrace this life. So if this is what you want to do, if you want to work and share these stories, like, what does that look like for you? How do you want to do it? And I also think I would tell people, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. Like, everybody can have their own voice. Everybody can share in their own way. And that doesn't discount you as a journalist or as a reporter. So that was something that I learned. Like, I can write this intro, but there are 30 right ways to write this intro to a story. And so that kind of really stuck to me. It's like, it doesn't have to be this way. There's a million ways to write something that's still correct or still gets the point across. So figure out the way it works for you.
Just kind of share just that bond that young journalists and people in small newsrooms can kind of form.
Yeah, the crazy thing about or the thing about working in news is that you will spend more time with these people than you will your own family. Even my family lived not too far from the Rockford area, but I mean, you work Christmases, you work holidays, you work your birthday, and you work crazy hours with these people. So, I mean, we've even I still see the picture that, the big blizzard happened and I spent the night on a cot next to Eric Sorensen on a floor in the engineering office. So you really live with these people. And so it does turn into a family. I mean, the people at WREX knew more about me than anyone else. They, when it was my birthday, people showed up with, cupcakes or would decorate your desk. But it is a family. I've had my coworkers at my parents' house for Christmas because they couldn't make it home, and that's the other thing. You have to be able to, even if maybe you get Christmas off, you're too far away to go home to where that is. And so WREX really turns into a family, and the people there are really cheering you on as much as anybody else. So you've been through everything. I mean, we lost Jeannie Hayes to cancer, and the whole newsroom was there with her with her family. And that's something you don't move on from when something like that happens, that it really forms a bond that really drew us all together and connected us, I think, for the rest of our lives, that we just feel it's not fake what you see on TV. I mean, that we really do love each other and cared about each other and wanted, the best for each other. And if somebody had a good story or a good get, it was people were cheering each other on in the background, or if they had a hard day, trying to pick each other up. So that was something that was really special about WREX, is that outside of work, we really were each other's family, and it was important.
Yeah, you mentioned Jeannie. What made her such a special person to you?
Well, my Jeannie story that I remember to start off with it for Jeannie is we started off in WREX when it was still the height of journalism, and it was so busy in the newsroom there wasn't extra desks. So if you were brand new, there wasn't a place for you to sit. And my first interaction was almost the Forrest Gump interaction, where they said, go find a desk to put your stuff in the newsroom, but there were no desks. So what was I supposed to do? And so I kind of like walked around, and Jeannie said, hey, I have a drawer at the bottom of my desk I'm not using. You can share my desk with me. And she had just started a few months earlier, and you're brand new and you're right out of college, and you're like, I don't know where to go or where to sit. And of course, she just invited me to just, basically be her friend. And since then, there wasn't a day that Jeannie, one, wasn't a positive force in our newsroom, and there wasn't a day that she wasn't meeting everyone with kindness. I mean, she was always so warm and welcoming to the new people who came into the newsroom. And she always was trying to help people. She really cared about making WREX better and making the world better. I mean, and I think what I'll always remember is she always wanted to help animals. And so much of her time was spent trying to get, Summerfield Zoo, or if somebody had like Who Haven, there was a wounded animal, she's like, I want to talk to them. I want to see the story. I want to, like, what can we do about this? So she really had a mission as well, besides just kind of helping other people. She really wanted to like pass on that to as many people as she could.
Definitely. I know probably a lot of things blur together over 10 years, but any favorite stories or things that you covered when you were in Rockford?
I love the city market. I still like sneak in on you guys to see the city market. I don't know if you remember, but I think the city market was supposed to be like a one weekend gig when we came up with the idea. I was there when it started, and they're like, hey, can you go out to the city market on a Friday night? We'll have a live shot. We'll do this. And I remember I went out, and they're like, can you come up with something to do? And we had like a vegetable vendor who said I could teach you some stuff about the vegetables. I was like, okay, that sounds great. And so we didn't plan it out. He didn't actually have a regular kitchen knife to like cut the vegetables with or do anything. So like right off the bat, it just, you just go with it. It's television, and you're just like, he's like, we're gonna cut kohlrabi, and I was like, kohlrabi, and he took out his pocket knife and he handed it to me, which was a terrible idea. And I tried to cut it. I I believe I cut my hand, and I just kind of like told the viewers, but I kind of kept going. I was like, so I'm a little cut, we're gonna keep going. And so that kind of became what happened at the city market, was just what happened. That's what I did every week. And my favorite was the day that Vintage was doing fried pickles, and I made the fried pickles and I picked them up, and I didn't even think about it. I just bit into one, and I couldn't even talk on air. My mouth was on fire, and I was like blinking back tears. I was trying to be like, somebody take it back at the studio. And then you hear the guy from Vintage going, well, you did just bite into like 200-degree oil on air. Like,
I do remember that one now that you mentioned it.
So the city market is just classic. I remember as I was leaving Rockford, people were saying, oh my gosh, I literally used to watch Fridays to tune in to see what would happen to you at the city market. And I'm like, I swear, these things just happen naturally. I don't know how it happens.
Blood, sweat, and tears, right?
Exactly.
Literally.
So those were great times. I love the city market, and I'm so happy to see it's growing and doing so many wonderful things, because I was like, it's the city market. You can't miss it on a Friday night.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. It's neat to see how much it's grown.
Yeah. It was like the other
Yeah.
things are like, yeah, the Airfest and things like that. I'm like, I threw up twice in a plane at Airfest, unfortunately.
Yeah, Danny was telling me how she flew with Blue Angels, and
she passed out. She passed out when we watched her on air, be like,
she didn't mention that part.
She passed out. I was the opposite. I had the problem where I was airsick in the plane, and the person who flew right before me was Peanut Tillman, and he was all like trying to be cool about it. He was like, yeah, great, blah blah blah. And then after I came back down, I found out he'd been like in a hangar laying on the ground in the dark for like 3 hours because he had air sickness. Air sickness doesn't go away. And I was like, what the heck? What did you tell me? Once you get up there and you start pulling G's, you do not feel good.
Yeah.
What I will say about Rockford is that I feel like when I moved from Rockford to Milwaukee, people thought, oh, you came from Rockford. That's a small town. And I think people really underestimate Rockford and what it is and what it has to offer. Because I remember that I started working in Milwaukee and somebody else had started and they were from St. Louis. And so they assumed the girl from Rockford was going to need all this training and all this help. And I knew Rockford is just like a big city in a small body, that there are so many things that happen in Rockford that we've covered everything. You know, we've covered tornadoes, we've covered active shooters, we've covered the gamut. And so when I started here, I remember them telling me, oh, don't worry, we'll give you time and training. And it turned out that they all of a sudden like looked at me, and it was day 3. And usually we give 2 weeks to a month of training before we let somebody kind of start working. And they said, you got this. It's like you've been working in Milwaukee this whole time. And I said, yeah, all this stuff is, you know, what we cover in Rockford every day. It's the same kind of news that we cover every day, that Rockford is thought of as a small town, but it's really, you know, a big city and just a smaller body. And so much happens in Rockford that, you know, I'm sad that people discount everything that it is, because to me, I love Rockford. I always tell people about my time at WREX. I mean, I think the whole newsroom is like, didn't you grow up there? And I'm like, well, I grew up there for a time. And but there's so much that happens and so many amazing things that there that people should feel lucky that they spent time in Rockford or that they live in Rockford, because it's a great city. And I have nothing but love for Rockford, for the people. I'm cheering you on from Milwaukee all the time. I love seeing Rockford continuing to be a success. I think that people who haven't spent time in Rockford, or who drive through it instead of stopping, are really missing out, because I love Rockford, and it always will hold a special place in my heart.